To all the critics praying for inevitable superhero fatigue and who are living in fear of a society becoming forever overstuffed with superhero movies, here's why you're wrong. Look, it's true, we are a culture awash with the superhero. 4 out of the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time are superhero movies. And in terms of movie franchises, the MCU is the highest grossing by a hulkish margin. And with 3 MCU movies, around 2 DCEU movies, and at least a further 3 from other Marvel and non-Marvel superhero franchises, it doesn't look like the superhero train is slowing anytime soon. But here's the point. I'll bold it so it stands out. Every period in cinema history had its dominant genre. I'll repeat it because it needs to be repeated. Every period in cinema history had its dominant genre. In the 20s, you had your silent slapstick comedies. In the 40s and the 50s, you had film noir. In the 60s, you had the spaghetti western. In the 70s, you had the sci-fi horror. In the 80s, you had the youth teen movie. In the 90s, you had the action adventure film, and the waifu film. In our current decade, you merely have another ebb in the flow of movie trends, the superhero film. And throughout the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, you can bet your bottom credit that there were the same cinematic doomsayers praying for the start of insert movie genre fatigue and praying for the day of reckoning for these movies, just like they are in this century. Critics, after all, need to get paid, and doomsday sells. You can even imagine the structure of these headlines of the past. We're in film noir fatigue, wishing for the quiet death of the silent movie, the cinematic gluttony of the spaghetti western, teen comedy box office bloat killing Hollywood, experts say. I call these kinds of people premature naysayers. They're the same people that, when the printing press was invented, echoed from the sidelines, but the common people will be forever lost in literary fatigue. They're the same people that cried at the popularity of the comic book, but these kids should be reading real books, real literature. They're the same people that said, when video games entered the mainstream, but these games will rot children's brains, at least when they were reading comic books they were actually reading something. They're the same people that now praise the film noir era as one of the golden decades of Hollywood. Basically, these people are the hipsters of history, hating on what's popular, because hating on what's popular gets them paid. It's a strangely similar mentality behind the endless news cycle trope of the horrible humanity-ending epidemic you must pay attention to right now. Remember the bird flu epidemic, the swine flu epidemic, the obesity epidemic, the anorexia epidemic, the salmonella epidemic, the feline epidemic, the now this epidemic, the now that epidemic? Tag epidemic on the end of a headline to immediately treble your clicks. And I'm not saying this is a conscious choice of the critic, it's more like trial and error. They try writing one style of headline and article, and if it's successful as in if it gets a click, they write more iterations of that same article. See how these 2 headlines, though seemingly on completely different topics, are of the exact same spirit. 15 reasons why Avengers Infinity War will be Marvel's worst movie. 10 diseases cats can give you, because cat scratch fever is real. Different topic, same core. 1 billion years of evolution have just biased human brains towards the bad, hence the clandestine journalistic mantra.
If it bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads applies equally to real-life bleeding as it does to the metaphorical bleeding of the superhero movie.
It's a simple concept, guys.
But you might be thinking, in many cases these premature naysayers were right. For example, film noir is today the Ant-Man compared to the superhero movie Hulk. They may have been right, but it was for the wrong reasons. So here's the other reason, perhaps the main reason, why the superhero fatigue epidemic is, for lack of a better word, a steaming pile of Hulk. People just want to see good movies. As long as writers, directors, and producers keep making good superhero movies, people will keep paying money to watch those good movies, because a good movie is genre independent.
It's a simple concept.
It's genre independent. In other words, people don't get tired of movie genres. They get tired of bad movies. I'll repeat this, because this too needs to be repeated. People don't get tired of movie genres, they get tired of bad movies. What I'm trying to say is that there's nothing inherent in a movie genre that can make that movie genre go stale. A genre only goes stale when the aggregate creative energy of filmmakers and studios shifts. And often this shift occurs needlessly in step with what the premature naysayers write. So don't believe for a second the old didacts such as critics are beyond criticism or don't criticise the critics because it makes you look petty. You know who says that? Critics say that. Actually, let's be fair and accurate, lazy critics say that. They say that as a monetary self-defence mechanism, unconsciously learned through trial and error. For if their own work was exposed to true criticism, their laziness would shine through and that money would dry up. Everything within the realm of creative expression should be open to critique, and the very act of criticism itself too is within this realm. The 15 reasons why Avengers Infinity War will be Marvel's worst movie is as worthy of criticism as Avengers Infinity War itself. The idea that the critic is some kind of protected category, sat enshrined behind a green wall of matcha tea lattes, is total hogswash. But contrary to what you might think after hearing this, I'm not anti-critic. I'm anti-lazy critic. In fact, I'm not even sure I'm anti-lazy critic. It's actually kind of fun to have them around, knowing they're part of this centuries-old group of premature naysayers which have existed pretty much since the dawn of media. It's like Avengers Infinity War opens to the biggest audience in cinema history. Quick, better write an article on why the superhero genre is killing cinema!
If it bleeds, it leads.
And hint, Infinity War broke records not because the people have forgotten what a good movie is. It's because Infinity War is a really damn well-made movie. And if you don't like it, well then perhaps, and I don't say this sarcastically, but perhaps it would be cool for you to make your own contribution to cinema history and show everyone a better story, and maybe try and shift the creative energy that way. That's how you compete with a dominant genre. And so is the myth of superhero fatigue.